Hi, good afternoon. Welcome to Sports Today. Just half an hour away from what should be scheduled start of play in the World Test Championship final between India and New Zealand. Beg your pardon. It's the day four, the fourth day of this Test match, and well, the first day was washed out because of rain and bad light forced early stumps on day two, day three as well. Um, Play was scheduled to have gone on till about 7:30 p.m. local time there, but unfortunately, stumps was called 32 minutes before time because bad light played spoil sport again. And now, well, uh, I am afraid the forecast doesn't look great for today. So there is been rain predicted every hour or thereabout. It's not the best of forecast from what we've understood with the weather forecast. So that's the that's the situation from Southampton, and I'll just summarize the scores for you quickly. India were bowled out for 217, and New Zealand were 101 for two at stumps when Ishan Sharma got rid of Devin Conway at at just what turned out to be stumps, with Ross Taylor joining Kane Williamson for uh, for the file. That's the update from Southampton. Um, well, if you were to believe the early weather forecast everywhere that you see, then if you tune into that, it doesn't look very promising at the moment. So that is what we have for you at the moment. Also, the fact is that it was interesting to note what Shubman Gill said at the post match press conference about having a crack at Ross Taylor. I'll come to that. There are some questions already on the weather, and the Haldar is asking if there is any chance of play today. Well, I wouldn't really go into a prediction overdrive, but from what I've seen on the weather update and the weather forecast, it doesn't look great. So we'll just wait and watch before we commit further and wait for hopefully the situation to improve. Anuradha Kundu's asking if this World Cup World Test Championship be rescheduled? No, this World Test Championship final cannot be rescheduled. It was uh, it's been slotted to play from the 18th to 22nd of June with a reserve day. Of course, the reserve day was automatically triggered when the first day was washed out. Then, but the weather has been such; it's been inclement weather. If not rain, bad light has forced early stumps. Remember, 98 overs were supposed to be bowled on the second day. Only 64.4 overs were possible. Uh, Pratik Firka is saying ICC should have taken note of these conditions earlier. Well, look, again, what do you do about weather? First, the final was scheduled to be played at Lords because of logistical reasons. They had to shift at Southampton. Um, it's just it's just nothing that we can predict. This is nothing that can be done in terms of the weather turning up like this. But the one debate that I would like to have sometime in the future, and this is something that I have spoken to you about on my earlier broadcasts, is the light rule, is the light meter rule, whether there should be any changes to that, whether there should be some more pragmatic approach to reading light to decide when it is safe for players to or no when it is no longer safe for players to carry on, and whether there should be a different approach. Um, that's well, we are waiting for further update. Every time I come live to you, I have come live to you before the World Test Championship final for the last 3 or 4 days. I have come to you hoping to bring good news, and I was more than happy to say on day two that day three that when play would start on schedule. Of course, yesterday there was a delay of 30 minutes, but play was also called off 30 minutes before time. because of bad light. This is what we're getting from Southampton at the moment. But I'll also take you through some interesting snippets from that press conference. This is where Shubman Gill, in fact, said that bad weather probably robbed India of a chance to have a crack at Ross Taylor. They were pretty pumped up after that wicket. There was first a strong opening partnership between Tom Latham and Devon Conway, and then R. Ashwin picked up Tom Latham after an opening stand of 70 runs, and then Ishant Sharma got Devon Conway at the at the last minutes of what turned out to be the last minutes of day three. Shubman Gill, the young India opener, he had an interesting take. Uh, he said when play resumes today, that is the fourth day, he said India would have a slight edge over New Zealand as both the batsmen are relatively new at the crease. Remember, Kane Williamson was batting unbeaten on 12. Ross Taylor had just played a couple of balls. In fact, he also said that Devon Conway was a crucial wicket for India at that stage, and they would have been happy to bowl a few overs to Ross Taylor. And he said that probably the early stumps there robbed India of a chance to take that crack at Ross Taylor and put further pressure on New Zealand there. He said there was, of course, in the second innings, he'd be looking to cross 250 because remember at one stage we were talking of 250, 270 in 250, 270 runs in terms of 250 to 70 runs, whether that would have been a good total, whether that would have been a good total to go with in the first innings. But Shubman Gill said, well, we were in a solid position, but hopefully in the second innings, we will be able to get some more runs and get past at 250, 260. Surinder Singh is asking why could the Indian bowlers not get more help from the pitch compared to the Kiwi bowlers? Look, the thing is, I spoke about this yesterday on a couple of my broadcasts. It's the fact that New Zealand had better use of the pitch. The New Zealand bowlers, they won the toss, of course. Um, I thought that the conditions became relatively marginally better for batsmen over the next 2 days, over those 2 days, and also if you look back at New Zealand, they struggled. They did not bowl the right lengths. I was like I said, a little surprised with the way they bowled in that first hour. The fact is that New Zealand, uh, that when they came out to bat, of India also, of course, they did not get enough swing and they were relying too much on the pitch. So that was what uh, did not get them too many wickets. Ishant and Shami were very, very impressive. I thought they bowled with a lot of discipline. Jasprit Bumrah has just looked a little off color, but he's a world class bowler. Just bowled about those 11, 12 overs, right? So you expect him to come back and make a 10, provided there is play anytime soon. And of course, we've spoken about Kylie Jamieson and the difference that he made with his tall height, with his ability to swing the ball late, move the ball late. Um, but apart from that, yes, you don't have too many wickets to against that column there. But Shami and Ishant were really, really good. And in fact, so was Ravi Ashwin. That was a very, very good day for him, I would suppose, with that first breakthrough for him. And he was difficult to get away. Um, that's my take on the Indian bowlers. Manoj P is asking, can we have another reserve day? Not at this stage, no. The World Test Championship final has already been decided with what with one reserve day. It is you cannot have one more reserve day in this final. So if you don't get a result by Wednesday, and if the weather continues to play spoil sport, then that's what it's going to be. There will be no more reserve day apart from the one already allocated and scheduled. So that's questions on. I think India will miss fourth bowler should Siraj also play as the fourth bowler. Surinder, well, we've discussed this. They've gone with the best possible bowling with their best bowling lineup with the most experienced bowling lineup in Ishant, Shami, Bumrah, Ashwin, and Jadeja. Um, Siraj, and they had the reason to get the left-handed openers in that New Zealand lineup. And India, of course, talk about Ishant Sharma's record against left-handers and also his experience of having played Test cricket in England. For India, it was a no-brainer to go in with Ishant Sharma alongside Shami and Bumrah. And of course, they're two spinners because I also told you that they not apart from the fact that they're world-class spinners and have bagged loads of wickets in the kitty, they also bring a lot in as batsmen. That's the that's the uh, that's the only issue there with what some of you have with that bowling lineup with Siraj not being included. Earlier, of course, there were questions on why Shardul Thakur wasn't included in the final 15. It's not looking great. It's not looking great from that ground, and we will actually have to wait and see because the rain is it's still steady. The rain is still pretty steady there, and we'll of course the players, their hotel is adjacent to the ground, so they'll be watching a lot of the action from. They'll be watching everything from the ground. So I'm not even sure whether they have come to the ground. So we're waiting for. Uh, we're waiting for further updates and figure out what would happen if the fourth day is also called off. If the fourth day is called off, that's you're looking at. If that happens, then you're looking at a possible, most likely, it's going to end up in a draw, right? So there is uh, there is very little indication that it's going to be a promising day. Like I said, still raining steadily, and the weather forecast is not looking great at this stage. I will try and get you some more from Southampton. We'll figure out what is happening, and if need be, we'll come back to you later to the talk about what's going down there and where things stand at Southampton in terms of the rain, and then what happens when the rain stops. Of course, there will be an inspection. Remember, yesterday there was a bit of rain in the morning, and then there was an inspection at 10:20 a.m. local time, or 10 minutes to 3 p.m. here India time, and then they decided to start play by 11 o'clock their time and 3:30 p.m. India time. So once the rain stops, there'll be another inspection. So we'll have to wait for that because it's been raining pretty steadily, from what I understand. Pradeep Kumar Sahu, what do you think about yesterday? Uh, Jadeja's batting replacement of Hanuma Vihari. I think if I get your question right, Pradeep, I reckon you're asking about Hanuma Vihari. Again, we've spoken about him, but the fact is that India decided with 7 and 8, Jadeja and Ashwin, because anyway, you have the first six picking themselves up. Number 7, would it have been too low anyway for a specialist batsman, or would you rather have an all-rounder of Ravindra Jadeja's caliber, who's a very good batsman, who's in good batting form, and uh, he obviously can. He's a dangerous left arm spinner as well. And India believe their spinners can do well in any sort of condition. As for Jadeja's batting, well, uh, you know, that was a clear tactic between Ashwin and Jadeja from what we felt. Right, Ashwin was the more aggressive of the two. He was trying to get those runs. He got 22 quick runs, and Jadeja probably thought he'd just stay on and with the tail just hit a few away and get some quick runs, but that wasn't to be. That wasn't to be. Lakshya Srivastava, what is the expected time for the match to start? I don't know, my friend. We are waiting. We are waiting because the weather in Southampton right now is not very promising. It's not the best news that I can get you from Southampton. So, like you, you're all waiting to figure out the start time and what's going to happen and when we can get some game because it is still raining. It is still the pitch is of course covered. The square is covered, as you've seen. It's become a familiar sight in Southampton. Um, Pratik is another one on Rishabh Pant. So what happened to Pant? Does England Does England condition not suit him? Well, uh, no, it's not that. I think any batsman who goes from the subcontinent, first of all, nobody, a lot of top batsmen have struggled in England, struggled against the swing, this the movement. Also, if you remember, Rishabh Pant's first century came in England, right? His first Test 100. Um, Again, he was spectacular in Australia. Coming to England yesterday, a lot of people were wondering, where Pant can come out and go bang bang right at the outset. And I had said again on one of the earlier shows that Duke ball, it retains its shine for a while. So it's difficult to just come out and start playing your shots straight away. Rishabh Pant yesterday, I thought he was very good. He was very, very good for the first 16, 17 balls in terms of leaving everything outside his off stump. He showed a lot of resilience, a lot of patience. After that one boundary, he won't be very happy with that shot, which where he got out. So and that is not a reflection on Rishabh Pant, probably. And that's the way he plays. But also over the last several months, like 4, 5, 6 months, he's been able to curb his natural instinct, and he's shown that he's willing to stay at the crease, assess the situation, figure out what the bowlers are doing before unleashing his wide array of strokes. Can we have a result in this match? Sundaresha CA. Well, Sundaresha, we waiting to see when play resumes on day 4, or that is Monday. It's still a steady drizzle, still a steady rainfall, and the pitch is still under cover. The square is covered, so it's not going to be it's going to be difficult to say when play can start. But if, in all honesty, I can tell you this, that it doesn't look really promising. Of course, unless there is some respect from the rain gods and we have some play. So result, well, we are looking. I think if you're talking of a result in this Test match at this point, at this juncture, I I think that it's too much. It's looking too far ahead. So let's just go by the fact that we just go step by step and hope that play starts soon enough and that there is some action that you get to see. But weather is clear at 5. I think so, as there will be a lot of water on the ground. Exactly. So there is, first of all, Lakshya, there is not, the weather prediction for the rest of the day is not great. It's not very promising as of now. Like I said, it's raining. And yes, even when the rain stops, even when there is forecast for the rain to stop, there will be some puddles forming around the ground. You've seen what happened yesterday. There will be an inspection, and then after that, only after that, once the inspection is done, only after that will we get a clear picture of of what of when play can start and when play resumes. Well, that's the update as of now. Also, talking of the press conference, since we are here as well, waiting, talking about the weather. I know, it's over the last 3 or 4 days, I haven't spoken as much about the weather as I have now, trying to cover the World Test Championship final. It would have been ideal talking about Virat Kohli, talking about Kane Williamson, talking about Kylie Jameson, talking about all these terrific modern day heroes who are playing out that historic World Test Championship final, but it wasn't to be. But one battle that I thoroughly enjoyed was between Virat Kohli and Kyle Jamieson. Yes, Jamieson got the better of his RCB captain Virat Kohli, but there's a very interesting take on Virat Kohli's dismissal. Said, he was asked if he set up Virat Kohli with outswingers, going away from his body and then bringing one in, like they did, and that was whether that was the downfall of Virat Kohli. Remember, I was telling you yesterday that it was brilliant bowling from Jameson from New Zealand in that, especially after that opening stand, and uh, where India were happy to leave a lot of balls outside the off stump, and Jameson, uh, Virat Kohli was also happy to leave those balls outside off stump, and then Jameson got one to come back in with that nipper, and he was gone. And here is what Jameson said. He said, yes, that was a definite plan. And he said, maybe there is some sort of pattern, and this we know. There's because there's talk about that huge amount, one that I was able to get him. It'll certainly see, and he said it certainly seemed back a little bit. And he said it was very difficult for him for a bowler to control. I will quote him, um, and this is what he said, and that was pretty hard to control as a bowler, and pretty harder, and even harder to manage as a batsman, no matter who you are. So I don't think it is necessarily just for him. That's what Kyle Jamieson said at that press conference, and he said, of course, Virat Kohli being such a superstar, and he's such a great batsman. Of course, that wicket obviously was the only was a big moment for New Zealand in that game. Eventually, getting bowled out for 217. A lot of you are talking of whether there will be a draw. What will happen unless what will happen if there is no play on day four, with already so much time lost? Well, let's just wait for the rain to clear out. Again, it would be next to impossible for me to figure out the start time and what sort of what hours of play we can have today. But if the weather, like I keep saying, the weather forecast is not looking great. First, the rain has to stop, and then the umpires have to decide. Match officials have to decide when to schedule an inspection. Once the inspection is done, probably that's if there is play, if if play is possible, you will get to know of a scheduled start. We will be told about a scheduled start, and of course, we will inform you on sports today. Maybe selectors should rush and seam bowlers like Bhuvneshwar Kumar, at least for Indian series. Well, Raman G, India's bowling lineup is, I think, is pretty sorted still. You have Siraj and Shardul in that lineup there, and I get the feeling, of course, they'll play part in the England series, but it's not just about it's you start missing a certain bowler here and there, and forgetting the fact that these guys have been the fulcrum of India's sensational run in Test cricket, especially in this WTC journey. Pradeep Kumar Sahu, what do you think about Conway's batting? How can anyone be comfortable batting in this first over? It's just phenomenal, Devon Conway. It's the more you watch him, the more impressive it is. You saw how he took his time, settled down. Yesterday, when he was batting yesterday, it was a sign of a man who's confident, who's been in England for a while, who scored runs, scored a double century, followed it up with another 18-second Test match. So that was the confidence of a man in supreme form. Is just again, but the fact is that conditions in New Zealand and conditions in England are to an extent pretty similar. Sometimes I would say, you think that the swing movement, the movement is more prodigious in New Zealand, it's more pronounced in New Zealand. So having grown up playing there, having a good record there, and coming to England, Devon Conway really translated his talent so well. It was such a pleasure to watch him, even against India. Those 50 odd runs that he got. It's just a superb talent. Superb talent. That's Devon Conway. Well, I think that's all the update that I have for you now, and We'll come back to you with hopefully more cheerful news. But as of now, if you saw that tweet from the Black Caps, that's the New Zealand Twitter handle, a couple of New Zealand players are relaxing and they're chilling out and they're playing table tennis while they wait for the weather to clear, for the rain to clear. Well, that's all that I have for now. Like I said, we're waiting for updates from Southampton for weather updates, and the moment we have some news, we will come back to you and tell you what to expect for day four of this World Test Championship final between India and New Zealand. Thank you so much for joining me. Please do subscribe to Sports Today.